Okay, good evening everyone. My name's Valerie McKen and I'm the founder of the Woman Wise Health Clinic. And this is the How to Stop Heavy Menstrual Bleeding. Now, of course, this is something that affects a lot of women, hence why you're here. So what I wanted to do to kick things off is to start with a little quiz. So if you have a look at these 7 questions, if everybody could put themselves on mute, please.
Not always.
Just put yourself on mute.
It's frozen.
Yeah, it's just...
Okay, just 1 second, Val. Valerie, you can go.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So if you have a look at these 7 questions, so what I want you to do is just read through them quickly and answer yes or no to each one, and then add up your scores. So if you've done that quickly, out of the 7 questions, how many yeses do you get? So if you answer yes to just 1 question, the chances are you suffer with heavy menstrual bleeding. If you said yes to all 7, then you definitely suffer from heavy menstrual bleeding. So unfortunately, none of us really understand how the human body works because we were not taught, which is why when we get ill or we have these issues, nobody seems to know what to do about it. What I wasn't expecting was to end up sharing this information with others when this was happening to me. Initially, my sole goal was to help myself. I myself suffered with heavy bleeding, clotting, cramping, and severe, pain, especially the backache, for years, especially since my teens. In 2017, when I ended up in hospital being told I needed a blood transfusion, which I refused, by the way, I vowed to research all I could to find out what it was I needed to do to help myself, because all these doctors seemed to want to do was take my womb away. And for me, that wasn't the answer. Many of the things we've come to believe to be true, for example, diseases like type 2 diabetes, you just have to live with, that isn't true. So I think it will benefit us all to learn more about the body and the disease process, because it is a process. The body is this great, it's just miraculous, and has all kinds of coping mechanisms in order to keep us alive, well and breathing. So the fact is, if we don't change what we're doing, eventually the body, which has been coping quite well up until now, cannot cope anymore. And that's when things get too much and we end up with the illnesses, disease, or eventually the body just expires. Continuous heavy menstrual bleeding can be life-threatening because of course you're losing a lot of blood every month, and blood, if you for the Christian ladies out there, blood is mentioned a lot in the Bible because it's your life force. So in order to reverse this, there are certain things we need to do in order to heal. And heavy menstrual bleeding, by the way, can happen regardless of not whether you have fibroids. So what we're going to cover today is the definition of heavy menstrual bleeding, the 4 toxic emotions that affect your health, the foods you must avoid, natural approaches to balance hormones, NPMS, cramping and moods, and why detoxing your liver is key, and a lot more. So essentially, we're going to start with the good old NHS. Now, you can't really fault them because it's not their fault, but they say that heavy periods are common, but they can have a big effect on a woman's everyday life, which is so true. They do not always have an underlying cause, but they can result from problems such as fibroids or endometriosis. So it's important to get your symptoms checked out. Oh, sorry, just got a phone call there. So it's important to get your symptoms checked out. So in about half of women with heavy menstrual bleeding, no underlying reason is found. So the NHS, so I thought, okay, so if most of the heavy bleeding is for, you know, main cause maybe fibroids or endometriosis, then let me have a look at that then. But this is what they say about fibroids and endometriosis. Okay, so it's linked, so if heavy menstrual bleeding is linked to fibroids, but then you look on their website and they say they don't know the cause of these conditions either, but they link fibroids to estrogen, but don't go any further as to how estrogen might be responsible. I don't know about you, but I find that rather confusing. So having suffered myself for years, since my teens, with heavy menstrual bleeding, I know all too well how miserable life can be. So before we dive in, I want to quickly tell you who I am and what qualifies me to speak about this. So again, my name's Valerie McKen, and I've been a nutritional therapist since 2005 now. Yes, so I've been in the industry, the health and wellness industry, for quite a substantial amount of time. I was diagnosed with fibroids in 2002. I had 2 surgeries, none of which did anything to resolve the heavy bleeding, by the way. I had, I think it was 11 fibroids removed from about 8 centimetres, between 8 and 9 centimetres, if I can get my words out. And that was the whole point of my surgery. That's why I went for it, because it was, my main goal was to reduce the heavy bleeding, as well as the pregnant look, because I couldn't stand the pregnant look. Wearing a bikini was just out of the question. So it was only after the second surgery I realised I was intolerant to the anaesthetic. So further surgery was off the cards, and besides, it didn't work anyway. So my motivation for what I'm doing now was to ensure that the fibroids that were left, because not all of them were removed by the surgery, my goal was to make sure that they didn't get any bigger. So it was in my best interest to ensure that they didn't grow. My goal is, and always has been, to find a way to stop the continued growth of fibroids and to end heavy periods. What I didn't realise is that I'd end up sharing this information with other women. Women-wise health, as I said before, was born out of that, because other women were suffering like me and need to know this information. So the medical definition of heavy menstrual bleeding is called menorrhagia. Heavy menstrual bleeding is when you lose a lot of blood during your period, or your periods last a long time. So you may have heavy menstrual bleeding if you lose a lot of blood during your periods, you pass large clots, your periods last more than 7 days. Officially though, the flow of more than, I think it's about 80 mils, yeah, that's 80 mils, or 16 soap sanitary products per period is considered as menorrhagia. They said per period, more like per day for some of us, right, or per hour. So and you need to change after less than 2 hours. You wait during the night to change. Who hasn't done that? And essentially, you can't live your life or carry out your daily activities without worrying about that gush. And of course, this leads to severe anemia, which I'm going to talk more about shortly. So in terms of medical treatments for heavy menstrual bleeding, and some of you may have had these treatments. I know that I've had the oral contraceptives myself, but some of you may have gone down the surgery route, gone and take oral or natural progesterone, tranexamic acid, things like that, and Advil, you know, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So you may have taken, so this is their treatment for heavy menstrual bleeding. Some of it, for some people, may be effective, for others, not so much. And of course, it doesn't actually resolve the issue, and especially when they recommend hysterectomy, which, if you know me and you've been to any one of my talks, I am dead against that. So medical experts, as I've already mentioned, do not know what the cause of heavy menstrual bleeding is, but it's been linked to, you know, hormonal imbalances, fibroids, and et cetera, et cetera. But as they've already pointed out, they don't know what the cause of those issues are either. So of course, the consequences of heavy menstrual bleeding, as we all know, is anemia. So at my worst, I don't know if you guys, any of you guys beat me at this, but at my worst, my ferritin levels dropped to 4. So I was so weak. I was out of breath at minimal exertions. I had zero energy. My heart pounded like you would not believe. So, and you know, my breathing was labored and heavy, and I was sweating a lot. So I feel it's important for you to understand how the body copes if there's not enough blood in the body. So as you well know, heavy bleeding leads to anemia. The severity of the anemia depends on how much blood is being lost every month. Some cycles don't even stop. I've heard of women who've had their cycle for months. You know, you can bleed for months and months or on end. At one point, I bled for 2 months straight. So iron deficiency anemia, in which the body lacks enough iron to create hemoglobin, which is the oxygen carrying molecule. This is a common condition, particularly, as you can imagine, among women, because of course we menstruate. So when the hemoglobin levels drop below normal, doctors tend to call this condition anemia and will then go on to prescribe iron tablets or iron supplements. So with the amount of blood being lost, what you'll find is that it becomes difficult for the body to keep up with the production of red blood cells. You need iron to make red blood cells. When researching for this, I came across a number of studies that show that women of Afro-Caribbean descent in particular tend to have lower hemoglobin levels. And guess what? The medical experts don't know why. A study by the US Department of Health in 1992, so we're going to, you know, sort of back a bit. This study found that iron consumption itself didn't seem to offer an explanation for the hemoglobin level differences between black and white women. Another study published more recently, that was in 2009, found that Black Americans were three times more likely to have anemia. Usually, when there's a disparity between Africans and Europeans, most experts put it down to income, socioeconomic status, access to good food or the lack of it. With anemia, they don't use that as an excuse, so they don't know, essentially. The decreased production of red blood cells leading to anemia can be caused by a number of things, but malnutrition, which actually means mal needs abnormal, tends to play a huge part. So we'll talk more about that shortly. So when oxygen levels drop, what happens in the body is that's picked up by specific receptors in the body. This sends a signal to the brain, which then increases the breathing. This is when you become short of breath, and I remember that feeling very well, especially if you try and do any kind of work where you have to exert yourself. Your body then compensates for this loss by making you breathe faster. Breathing faster increases your intake of oxygen. This, in turn, increases the speed at which blood is pumped around the body. The downside of this, unfortunately, over time, is that the size of the heart will increase because it has to work harder to pump the blood around the body. So this is one of the long-term complications of anemia. But when it comes to the human bodies, there's two things that are in charge. And that's the hormones and your microbiome. So that's your good bacteria. The hormones and your microbiome are the body's regulatory systems. So what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that tell your body what to do and when to do it. The microbiome is essential for gut health, immunity, brain health, hormone balances, and a whole host of other things. Estrogen is a powerful hormone. So it tends to be vilified, you know, as a thing to get rid of. But in fact, it plays a big part it plays a big role in the body of both men and women. But of course, men have much less of it. So nature has been managing our hormones for a very long time, and it knows what it's doing. Mother Nature knows what she's doing. So what we have to do is look at what we are doing that's causing the major hormonal imbalances. What are we exposing ourselves to that increases estrogen dominance? One thing is chemicals. So xenoestrogens. We are exposed to goodness knows how many thousands and thousands of chemicals that it is, you know, you just can't avoid it. It's impossible. And many of these act like estrogen. Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, these chemical substances all fit into estrogen receptors in the body and can cause estrogenic effects or cause estrogen receptors to become more sensitive. We have a huge issue with estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is also the cause of heavy menstrual bleeding, is also one of the causes. Estrogen is necessary for women and procreation. Women tend not to understand much about their monthly cycles. Unfortunately, this ignorance, which is no fault of our own, is leading us down to a path that's so not beneficial for us. The three main causes of disease, so this is moving on to, i.e., other things that are causing the issue with heavy monthly cycles. So there are three main causes of disease, imbalances and dysfunction in the human body. And that's what I call crap food, high levels of stress and toxins. So the CRAP is carbonated drink, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and processed foods. That's a well-known acronym. But let's take a look at the toxins. The best way to help you clear and excrete excess estrogen is to ensure you can clear and remove it from the body. The two main issues with excess estrogen is poor clearance and poor excretion. You may be already aware that by urinating and having bowel movements is the way the body gets rid of, excess waste, excess toxins. This is called detoxification. That's just part of the process. The bulk of the work starts in liver. Your liver plays a huge role in removing toxins. The processing and elimination of waste is done primarily by the liver. So it does the bulk of the work. So it's got a huge job of its hands. It's responsible for so many processes in the body. In order to remove and use excess estrogen, or remove it from the body, is to ensure that your liver can remove these toxins through the process of methylation. So you don't really need to know the chemical composition of methylation, but that's what it's called. So the function, these are just a few of the functions of the liver. This doesn't even cover most of it. And like I said, the liver has a big job. So it does this and more, it makes things, it stores things, it makes hormones basically. It's got some endocrine functions there. Of course, its biggest job is detoxification, etc. So these are just a few of the processes. If you have an underperforming liver, you get mood swings, depression, joint pain. It can be the cause of so many other things. And what tends to happen is if you've got joint pain, for example, no doctor would relate that to a liver. So you can get headaches and fatigue, and of course, estrogen dominance because your liver's not clearing it. So what we need to understand now is what is a toxin. So toxins comes in two forms. So I'm going to take a swig of water. So yes, the toxins come in two forms. So you got exotoxins, which are external, and endotoxins, which are internal. These are toxins produced by the body. A toxin is described as any compound that has a detrimental impact on cells or cell structure. Toxins can be man-made, such as air pollution, skincare products, sanitary ware because they tend to bleach those, medication, and as I've already mentioned, natural bodily processes. Excess estrogen is also a toxin. It's inflammatory, and in studies that it has been indicated in breast and ovarian cancer. What medical experts often tell us, though, is that these toxins in small amounts shouldn't really cause any issues because the body can cope. But unfortunately, there is a cumulative effect. Low-grade exposure over time builds up toxins in the body. But our body is fantastic. When I think about it, it's an absolute marvel at what it does. And the lengths it will go to ensure it makes sure you stay alive. So we often put our bodies through, a lot of hell, and the fear mongering that has been going on for the last 3 months has not helped at all. That's probably caused more of immune stress than anything else. This high levels of stress negatively affect the body, and we will be going through that as well. So your body does marvelous things. What it does is when it's overburdened with toxins, it tends to locate it in different parts of the body. So it will come in, so this toxin will come in and your body go, right, I need to store this, house this there so it doesn't impact the heart or whatever function it's trying to protect, it's trying to protect that toxin from. So mercury, for example, tends to get housed in the brain. Guess what? Mercury has been linked to a number of neurological diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. And other toxins will get stored in the muscle tissues and bones like lead and get stored in fat. So in terms of liver detoxification pathways, don't worry about this because I'm not going to take you on a chemistry lesson. This is just the basics. So many medical experts, they poo-poo detoxification. I've heard this from medical experts so many times. They rubbish detoxification because they believe the body can handle anything that's thrown at it. The health of the liver and your vitality is super, super, super important. The liver metabolizes estrogen, which can be eliminated from the body. What happens, it converts it to estrone and then finally to estriol. This estriol is a weaker form of estrogen. So failure of the liver to effectively metabolize estrogen may be one of the reasons where the uterus becomes over estrogenized and responds with fibroid growth and heavy bleeding. The majority of toxins are fat soluble. Water soluble toxins tend to be excreted through the urine. What happens is that fat soluble toxins are converted to water soluble molecules for excretion through the bile and urine. There are two phases to liver detoxification, and that's phase 1 and phase 2. Now, both phases transform toxins into water-soluble substances. Like I said, I'm not going to go into a chemistry lesson, so I'll just keep it basic. I'll just keep it really simple. Detoxification is any process used to decrease the negative impact of external or internal toxins on bodily processes. So, and the actual process of detoxification consumes around 60% of daily energy consumption. So you can see how important it is and how much energy it uses. So with phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification, I'll explain it briefly. So it's not really something you need to concern yourself with, but it's a nice to know. All that matters is that you need to ensure that both these phases are working correctly. Phase 1 breaks apart large toxic molecules through a process called bioactivation. So this is the first phase where a toxin is tagged for removal by the body. Phase 2 detoxification binds with the toxin from phase 1 and converts it into a non-toxic water-soluble substance that can be easily excreted. Like I mentioned already, the most important thing for you to know is that this process works efficiently. But you'll know by now that if you have heavy bleeding, fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, it's likely your liver is struggling. So I put this in with the celebrity bowel movement because I thought it was quite funny. But what happens is that toxins are removed via the urine, through sweat and through bile and through your stools. So what can go wrong? So saturated fats, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, junk foods, they're problematic in two ways. First, they interfere with the body's ability to metabolize estrogen, and then it leads to toxin overload, and it leads to a cascade in the body of impaired gallbladder, because once one thing goes, it has an impact on something else, and then that creates an overload of toxins, especially with estrogen. So excess estrogen is inflammatory. I've already mentioned that, and that needs to be removed from the body. So in order for the liver to do that, it needs nutrients from food. So you're looking at B vitamins, including B12 and folic acid, vitamin D, antioxidants, vitamin C, bioflavonoids, and your minerals like zinc, magnesium, iron, copper, and you also need protein. All those nutrients are essential when it comes to ensuring your liver removes toxins. Hemoglobin production depends on iron, protein, folic acid, and B12. Hemoglobin in itself is a protein and also needs protein as well as iron. A lack of B12 and folic acid interferes with the DNA synthesis in the production of the red blood cell. Vitamin D in particular is important because it is involved in the feedback loop that regulates the uptake of iron into the body. Insufficient vitamin D decreases a specific hormone which allows more iron to be absorbed. That hormone is called hepcidin or hepcidin. Hepcidin is a hormone that is responsible for the body's major feedback loop of iron absorption. It also has antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antifungal effects as well. Hepcidin is made in the liver, and that is where most of our iron stores are held. When hepcidin is low, more iron can be absorbed. When it's high, iron absorption is blocked. Vitamin D is one of the nutrients that lowers the production of hepcidin, thus allowing more iron to be absorbed. And guess who are the highest proportion of people in the UK who are vitamin D deficient? I'm going to leave that one for you to guess. So it makes sense that if these nutrients are lacking in the diet, the liver will not have some of the raw materials it needs to carry out its metabolic processes and regulate estrogen levels. Real foods are crucial for helping your body clear and excrete toxins. So, and I'm going to go over those in a short while. So before you go running off to sort yourself out, one thing you need to ensure is that your bowels are working. You also need good gut health to ensure that, one, you excrete excess toxins and estrogen from the body, and two, you absorb nutrients from the food you eat. So if you are constipated or you have imbalanced gut flora, you've got dysbiosis or something like that, what can happen is that when your liver sends the toxins to be excreted to the bowels, if you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase will separate the estrogenic substance from its escort. So what the liver was trying to get rid of gets drawn back into circulation. Your liver's gone through all that hard work to get rid of unwanted estrogen, only for it to go right back into circulation again. So good gut health is essential in normalizing hormonal balance. You need to be able to absorb, detoxify, clear waste from the body, and to do this, you need to ensure your liver and bowels are working. You also need good kidney health, clean blood, and good bile health as well. So heavy bleeding, anemia, fibroids, PCOS, endometrius, clotting, ovarian cyst, polyps, all those, they're all clear indicators that you are overloaded with toxins. You are carrying excess estrogen, you have poor clearance, poor excretion, and you are lacking vital nutrients, especially vitamin D. Hope this is making sense to you guys. Also, stress. So these are the 4 toxic emotions that affect the liver. Like I said already, the events that have happened over the last 3 months has increased our stress levels exponentially. Of course, you know, I mean, I think some of us thrive on having a little bit of stress. We need some of it, I believe. However, as human beings, we were never meant to be in a place of constant stress. We were never meant to live in a world where we're constantly stressed out and fearful. When we continually expose ourselves to bad news, negative news, this will eventually have a negative effect on your health, whether you realize it or not. I know I've been affected by recent events, and this is not helped by the fact that I've got a lot of trauma from my ancestral past as well. So that doesn't help. And it's also one of the reasons why I stopped watching soap operas and things like that. You know, EastEnders, Coronation Street, they're all disasters. You know, nobody's ever happy. They're all miserable. And so it's why I stopped watching the news. I stopped watching all the soaps. I stopped watching things like CSI Miami and Spartacus, because they contain scenes of negativity, murder, violence. And what I found is that those were affecting me to the point I was having nightmares. So every now and again, I have to pull myself away from things like Facebook and TV, because the constant negative narrative, especially on Facebook, because of the constant negative narrative on my feed. And I thought, you know what, let me just give this a break for a while. Stress, what stress does is it increases cortisol production. Cortisol is your stress hormone. High levels of cortisol increases blood sugar, mental, emotional, and psychological stress. What stress does is it causes cortisol to be dumped into the brain, where it disrupts the pituitary's communication with hormones that function the uterus. Too much stress becomes a biochemical disruptor, which is why people are always going about, make sure you de-stress. So for example, stress blocks the production of gonadotrophin releasing hormones and melanin stimulating hormone. Melanin stimulating hormone in particular is anti-inflammatory, and a lack of it will lead to inflammation. A lack can also lead to pain, sleeping problems, increased food intake, and of course that leads to obesity. So who hasn't put on weight over the last 3 months? So the gonadotropin releasing hormone is responsible for the release of follicle stimulating hormone. That, the FSH, if I just call it FSH, that is responsible for reproduction, so reproductive processes, and luteinizing hormone, which triggers ovulation. So in the morning, we are supposed to get a surge of cortisol. If not, we feel like rubbish. So if you have to drag yourself out of bed, you know you have low cortisol. What low cortisol does, it causes the immune system dysregulation and impairs thyroid function. Do you see how everything's connected? Increased stress and increased cortisol increases the production of insulin. Increased insulin leads to insulin resistance. That's the precursor to diabetes. So if any of you got diabetes, you'll know that all too well. What this does is that raised insulin causes an overproduction of testosterone, leading to androgen dominance, which is an overproduction of male hormones. Androgens are a group of hormones that play a vital role in the growth and development of the male productive system. As a female, we really don't need that. If there's any males on here, of course, that's great for you. So you can see this in women who have PCOS, for instance. They tend to have an overgrowth of hair. And so by eating junk food, by the way, eating junk food is also a stress on the body. So what happens is that testosterone, if we've got too much of a production of it, gets converted into estrogens through the process called aromatization. Aromatase is an enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. The result, estrogen dominance, especially if you have poor clearance and poor excretion. So you've got the role of estrogen and progesterone. So progesterone, what happens is that it's the balancing effect. So think of it as, you know, a pair of scales with estrogen on one and progesterone on another. So progesterone and estrogen, they're synergistic. They balance each other out. An increase in estrogen affects sex hormone production. Yes, affects sex hormone production. Increased insulin due to high blood sugar caused by stress or food causes hormonal imbalances. So increased insulin leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causing an overproduction of testosterone, leading to androgen dominance. Too much androgens, low progesterone, and high insulin prevents the synthesis of progesterone. Insufficient progesterone means no ovulation. No ovulation, no fertility. Progesterone is critical for fertility. So if you're trying to get pregnant, or you know somebody who is, but it's not happening, this could be the reason why. So I hope it's making sense. I hope I haven't confused you, but you can see how it's all connected. We are not a machine. Our bodies are not a machine where you can just take out parts and fix it and separate it like a car, like you would with a car, and shine it up and put it back and expect it to work like new. If you have a sluggish thyroid, for example, everything else is going to be sluggish. Think of a deck of cards all lined up. Push one over, that one goes, they all go. Same thing in your body. One thing goes, everything goes. There is so much involved with this. So I've only just literally scratched the surface, but it was my intention to help you understand the connection each body system has to one another, and the importance of ensuring you have good clearance and good excretion. So now I want to move on to how you can improve liver health. And I'm aware of time now, so I better crack on. But clinical studies have demonstrated that natural therapies work best when you have a healthy lifestyle, including dietary changes. Improving your diet helps decrease heavy bleeding, pain, discomfort that's caused by fibroids, and as well as improving overall health and well-being. So, of course, when it comes to improving your health, the first thing we have to do is love your liver. There was a study going way back, 82, and it found that women who ate a vegetarian diet, which was high in fiber, low fat, have lower estrogen levels than women who ate meat. So you can help yourself by doing, eating a colourful, nutrient-dense whole food diet. Remove food and drinks that are likely to contain toxin and allergens. Make sure you drink enough. Improve bowel regularity with fibre, and alkalizing foods for enhanced liver support. And also, I encourage you to watch these documentaries as well if you haven't heard of them, or if you have, go and watch them again. But these are great documentaries to learn about food, nutrition, and its impact on the body. So these are the next slide. So I'm rushing, so forgive me. These nutrients are what we need and are best obtained from food. That said, supplements are now becoming a necessity because of the way that food is grown, and the fact that most fruit and veg we get in the country is immature, it's ripe, and quite frankly, some of it tastes awful. So these are just a few of the nutrients you need for good detoxification. Again, nutrients in food are better absorbed and utilized in the body if you have good gut health. So if you are constipated or you suffer with diarrhea or any other gut issue, there's plenty you can do to reverse it. So if disease starts in the gut, it makes sense to clean up the gut first, and that helps. The simplest way to do that is through drinking more. And on that note, I'm going to drink a bit more. So of course, you're probably thinking, well, if you're standing there and you're flooding, you're not going to be thinking about drinking a lot of water. But the solutions to complex health issues are really simple. Drinking water will ensure your bowels move and your kidneys are filtering something, your kidneys are filtering, and that is something you can do straight away. You can just start drinking more. I had a hard time getting my other half to drink water, considering he's a fitness instructor. It was ridiculous. Thankfully, he's drinking more now, but it wasn't easy trying to get him to do that. So, poor bowel health signs, you'll know this. The bowel is one of the major absorption sites of the body. So if the bowel is not functioning properly, then the waste can just sit there and be reabsorbed back into the lymphatic system. And you don't really want that. So of course you get all these symptoms like diarrhea, IBS, bloating, especially bloating. Who helps that? So ideally, our poo should look like number 4, like a nice, smooth, soft sausage. If it's anything else above that, I think it's ideally 3 or 4. Anything else, you have an issue. Obviously, the higher up you go, the more constipated you are. The lower you go, the more likely is that you to have diarrhea. That's the word I'm looking for. So what you need to do is consider all cleansing channels. So your lymph, your gallbladder, again, your guts, your kidneys, pancreas, these are all important in cleansing. So in terms of the elimination period, this is what you need to do. Take a screenshot, if you will, especially if you're cleansing. So you need to avoid all these foods. Of course, it goes without saying, really, anything that's not grown naturally should ideally be avoided. So unfortunately, many of us are kind of addicted to these foods, and they were designed to be addictive for a reason. So when you're cleansing your liver, this is what you eat: gluten-free grains, natural foods, whole foods. This is not this is foods we were supposed to eat anyway. And that's in the Bible. If you look in the Bible, that's in Genesis, you can see clearly that the foods we are meant to eat are natural whole foods. So to help with detoxification, you can utilize these vitamins and minerals, these nutrients. These help with detoxification. And I put sunshine in there because, of course, that is your vitamin D pill. And of course, the indole 3-carbinol, that's similar to DIM, and that's for your estrogen metabolism. And if we look at the foods to eat, you'll see where most of those nutrients can be obtained. Food grown in the sun is the best source of these nutrients. Ideally, they'll be straight off the tree, right, raw, clean, and not packaged and left sitting around for months on end. So when you plan out your meals, include these type of foods, so you ensure you're getting all the nutrients you need. So proper meal planning with these foods will ensure you have all the nutrition you need to restore health, balance hormones, and reduce excessive bleeding. So these foods contain a variety of nutrients like A, B, C, vitamin K, iron, magnesium, protein, antioxidants, all those. And like I said, and sunshine as well. So to keep the colon clean, so a colon cleanse, for example, if you haven't already had one, I highly encourage it because that removes hard impacted waste, mucus, and debris that's built up over your entire life. So when you do it properly, you'll remove the putrid smell, because sometimes what comes out is foul, let's face it. So when you have a bowel movement, the smell should be minimal when you've done that. Healing is an ongoing thing. But the first step is to remove toxins, and you can do this just with food. So if it's okay with you, I just wanted to talk about a program that can help you. What I realized is that many people with my programs were not ready to commit to a long-term program and just needed help getting started. So I put this together because of lots of women I speak to with the symptoms we spoke about, as well as cramping pain, bloating, etc. Plus self-esteem. Plus the self-esteem is low because they feel they can't wear what they want. So I'd like to introduce you to the 14-day detox. Oh, I haven't even gone. I wanted to do the 14-day detox, but obviously we're moving on to question and answers now. So if you want to find out about that, then obviously you can contact me. But we're moving on to question and answers because we're running out of time. So sorry, guys, I can't go any further.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, we've got nearly 50 people on, and I've been getting texts as well during the session as well. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be loads of questions for you, Valerie, as well. So we want to make sure we can do that in our next 30 minutes. So please, if you have questions, please put them into the chat room. And I'm just going to read one of the texts I received. I'm not going to say who it's from, so don't feel embarrassed. But just to kind of open up the discussion, just received this from somebody, and it says I have literally been hi Andrew, I need to speak to this woman because this has literally been affecting me all my life. I've literally just ended my cycle and I'm on the same drugs. I'm on some drugs that she's put up. I really would like to have a herbal remedy or something more natural. We'll speak to you later. So Valerie, just to show that there are ladies out here who's suffering. Yeah. And as I said, you know, please do not feel shy to put a question in the box, and I will then unmute some people as well. But I said there's nearly 50 people on, so I don't want to unmute everyone at the same time. So if I just go through the first question. Also, Valerie, somebody's asked, will you be able to open a Facebook page where people can maybe join and you can share information on there as well? Is that something that you'd be able to do?
I can do that, certainly, but I would need everybody's details to ensure I can contact them to let them know that that's open.
Excellent, excellent.
Definitely.
Thank you. Just one more thing as well. We are recording today's session, so anybody who has just joined us, we are recording. So I'm going to ask Valerie if she can stop sharing. And Valerie, everybody wants to see who you are. So
Well,
you need to.
I'll have to log out from my computer because the what do you call it? Oh God, I can't think of the name. The video on my laptop doesn't work very well, so give me a second, give me a couple of seconds, and I'll come back.
You do your bit, no worries. So please, I've seen a couple of questions coming in already, but please let's get them ready. So once Valerie comes back on, we will have them. But to somebody who asks about the Facebook, yes, we will work with Valerie to try to create a Facebook page where ladies can then log on and see. Okay, so while we're still waiting as well, just a reminder for tomorrow, we've got a session at 7 p.m. tomorrow regarding stretching and mobilization. And let me just let Valerie back in. And then we've got a session next week, Wednesday. Yep, I've just let you in. We've got a session next week, Wednesday, regarding diabetes as well, and that's with a professor from King's College. So Valerie, are you back with us?
I am indeed. Can everybody see me?
Yeah, we can see you now. So let's go with some questions. Okay, so first question is, how do we contact Valerie for the 14-day detox?
Okay, let me I'm going to put my details in the chat box.
Excellent, thank you.
Where is it? Oh, I can't even find it. Oh, there it is.
Okay. I would like info and survey. Yeah, thank you. Question: I suffer from an underactive thyroid. Are you there, Valerie?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm just typing my email.
Okay, I can see your thumb. We can see your thumb. That's why. I don't know what's happened.
Yeah, because I'm on my phone. So.
Okay. Can you see the question, by the way?
No, I'm not in the chat. So.
Okay, no worries. Let me try and read it out to you. I suffer from an underactive thyroid. Had parathyroid glands removed, and I also have numerous fibroids. What would you recommend I take? What would you recommend? I take medication for thyroids, which sounds, sorry.
For fibroids or thyroid?
Thyroids. I take medication for thyroids, which sounds as though I'm causing my liver to be more sluggish.
Mm.
So what would you recommend?
Well, that would need a more in-depth consultation because that's quite complex because you've had part of an important organ removed. So that's caused issues because obviously without that organ, there are going to be some major issues with hormone production. So yeah, that's going to have an impact on the thyroid. So we would have to look at ways we can clean up the body. You can start with the womb detox. If anybody's interested in that, I'm happy to share more information on that. But initially, we would need to have an initial chat, I would say, and I can share the details of it. An initial chat won't cost you anything. You can just book a time to speak with me, and then we can go through something.
All right, thank you. Somebody said, amazing to have so many ladies on the chat. Obviously, a issue that we're all dealing with. Also, well done to all the men who's also on the chat as well.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think I saw 2 men, myself and one other person, but welcome as well. Can we see faces, please? Yeah, we can. Question: are vitamins good to take, and do they help?
Yeah, it depends where you're buying them from, though.
Okay.
If you're just buying them from somewhere like, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it's Holland and Barrett, then there's no point. Basically, the quality of the supplement really does count. And because obviously I take supplements myself because you're not going to get what we need from food. So the quality, there are some supplements I'm looking at that come from Africa. you know, some natural herbal remedies. But I'm yet to get in contact with I've been in touch with them, but I haven't had a response yet, so I'm going to chase them up, because what I'm looking to do is bring in supplements, or hope to be affiliated with people who sell supplements that are more aligned to our physiology, our biochemistry, shall I say.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to have something that's natural, that's grown in the sun, that's sustainable, and that can help us increase our blood supply naturally, rather than, but in the meantime, so in the meantime, we can just take supplements. I would say go to a health store and buy them, and buy decent quality supplements. But if you need specific advice on that, then it would be best to contact me, just have a chat, and then we can go through what you can do initially just to kickstart things off. But I do. Oh, thank you, Laura. I just read that.
Okay.
I think it's important to initially just start somewhere, even if it's just drinking more water,
Okay.
rather than worry about supplements to start with.
Thank you. Okay, here's another one. Valerie, you mentioned that there are toxins in pads. It's not promoted enough in mainstream media, but there is the menstrual cup made out of silicone, which could replace the usage of toxin pads. My question is, would you recommend the cup, and is this a healthier alternative?
I used the cup many moons ago, but because of my fibroids, I just found it really uncomfortable. So I would suggest trying it, because they do work, but they just didn't work for me. Like I said, it was just too uncomfortable, but they do work. And I find them, when I was using it, I find they do work. I have to say they do work. But I'm not sure how they work if you've got excessive flow.
Yeah.
You would have to try it and see, because I know that at the time I was using them, I was quite heavy, and I didn't blood or anything else, didn't leak. But like I said, for me personally, I just found them really uncomfortable.
Excellent, thank you. Next one is, will you be sending presentation notes? No, because this will be on YouTube. And on what you do, just go to YouTube, type in Croydon BME Forum, and you should see this video. And as I said, it should be up within 7 days. It will get to the guy today, tomorrow morning, and hopefully within 7 days. So please check the Croydon BME Forum YouTube channel. Make sure you share, subscribe, and all of that, and like it as well. Next question. My daughter started her periods at a young age and has suffered with long and heavy periods. I want to know how I can support her, especially when she doesn't eat healthily. Yeah.
That's a tough one. How old is she? She 18, 14?
She doesn't
13?
she doesn't say, and even if she does,
yeah.
I've got another 13 questions and it's gonna be too long to go back up and down.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
that's a toughie, because food is paramount. The only way it would have been ideal for her to join this webinar.
wow.
When you get the recording, get her to watch it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got some more email addresses. Everyone, once again, if you haven't put your email address in the chat, please do it. You could do it private as well, so I can send you the survey, plus what's happening tomorrow and next week. Thank you for sharing this knowledge with us. Very informative. I think this will be very beneficial to youngsters. Interesting. Valerie, how often do you deliver this to? Do you deliver this to young people?
No, I don't. I never have.
Okay.
I never
Okay.
have. No.
Okay. I know I've got one of my co-workers online, Lisa. So Lisa, maybe let's see what we can do about that as well. Let's try and run this to some young people. Okay, here's another question, Valerie. Are evening primrose tablets worth taking for peri-menopause women age 50 plus?
Hairy men. So what when
Hairy.
you say hairy? So you've got
No, Perry.
psoriasis and you
Peri.
Perry.
Yeah,
I was going to
yeah.
put hairy.
Is that why you look so confused?
Yeah.
No, Perry.
Yes. I can't say I've ever taken even primrose. I've heard they may be beneficial, but again, this is coming from people who just I'm going on the lines of the Afro-Caribbean chemistry. So I'm not sure if evening primrose oil would suit us, should I say. The only way to know, because I don't think I've ever taken primrose, because I don't think I was convinced. And
Okay.
if I did, I took it for a very short time. The only way to know is to take it and see. Because remember, when you're reading up on these things, it's coming from a perspective that doesn't cater to your unique anatomy and physiology.
Of course.
And I mean, because our biochemistry is different, because you've got the European biochemistry and then you've got the African biochemistry, and both can use. One thing I know is that both can use what we use, but we can't use what the European can use. It tends to be more adverse for us.
Okay, Valerie, we've got 24 more questions I need to go through. So
Okay.
yeah, you have to limit these the answers. Thank you so much. Okay, here's another one. Let's go through it. Thanks for sharing. How can one detox if on multiple medications? I wonder if meds I take for arthritis, high blood pressure, and I'm not even going to say that word, affect my gut health. So
What word's that?
Sorry.
Well, that's the thing. You'd have to take that one step at a time, and the best way to do that is through literally just changing your diet, because what you need to do is do it in a phased stage.
Yeah.
So you start with the diet. The best place to start for anyone when it comes to their health, especially if you're taking a lot of medication for certain conditions, because that medication, unfortunately, you'll just stay on it unless you do something to change what's happening. So the best way to do that is through diet. I highly recommend the detox.
Excellent, thank you. Another one, yes, I would. Okay, somebody would like info on the womb cleanse.
Yep.
She gets severe craving for salt.
Oh, right. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
And Lisa's actually just said, that she was also thinking of how we can get young people online to hear this. Question, my 2 young daughters are online, so there we go. Can you please advise them what they can eat as young people and let them know how bad fast food is? One is a teenager and able to buy her own food. They all look at my greens and say yuck. I am always asking them to go on walks in the sun, but they refuse. Please, can you speak to these our lovely young people online?
If you can't do it, you expect me to?
Hey, you know what?
They're teenagers, man.
Now, I've been a parent for many, many years, 25 years, and I can say stuff to my daughter and my son, they will not listen. If somebody else says exactly the same thing, guess what?
Yeah.
So go on, Valerie, please.
Exactly. So this is to the young ladies out there. If you want to continue suffering and you want to end up with fibroids and you want to end up with losing your womb, probably at the age of 40 or whatever it's recommended to you, keep doing what you're doing. That's all I can say. You're going down the perfect route for a hysterectomy. No sun, eating crap because it tastes good. We know it tastes good, but I can assure you, over a period of time, like I said, it's a cascade. It's cumulative. You're going in the right direction for poor health, heavy bleeding, PCOS, or whatever it is you're prone to. Keep going, keep doing. If you don't, I would encourage you to listen to this again once the recording comes out and just literally just experiment with some stuff. Yeah, your mum might be eating green stuff, then why not grow some stuff yourself and then try it? That's probably the best way to do it. But if you don't do something now, you'll end up going to the doctors where they'll be saying, well, we don't know what the cause of this is, but here, take this drug. Here, have this surgery. That's not the way the body works.
Yeah.
Drugs and surgery are there to help you cope. Don't get me wrong, they're perfect when you need them to cope with something, but long term, it's not the answer.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Laura, for your nice words. Thank you for answering. I think that young girl originally, the original question, she looks like she was 12 years old, Valerie.
Okay.
So can't remember the original question. I'm trying to scroll down. What is the best medication for a teenager?
Medication?
I think
You'd
it
have
depends
to go to
on.
a doctor for that.
Yeah, I think it
Depends what's the
depends.
matter.
Depends what the matter is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Depends what's going
Valerie's
on.
not a doctor, so we need to make sure that we stress it. Valerie, can you quickly just say your email address as well, please?
Yeah, it's Valerie McKen. That's all one word. So it's Valerie MCKEN @gmail.com.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we've got some more. We do exactly. Okay, we've got 31 unread messages. Thank you. Angus castos is a natural herb. Yeah,
Yep.
is that right? Herb, brilliant for this. Got me through the nightmare. Yeah, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the herbs you can use.
Okay, just tell us a little bit more. What do you know anything more about that one, sorry?
For me, I'm not a herbalist, but I know that I used to use Agnus castus to help with the pain, help with the PMS symptoms. It helps calm it down by helping to regulate the estrogen. I think it's a brilliant herb. I don't, like I said, I'm not a herbalist. There's just things I read up on when it comes to herbs.
Excellent.
So, but I know Agnus castus is something that can definitely help in the short term.
Okay, thank you. Somebody mentioned evening primrose is not effective when you have very bad symptoms as well.
Yeah, I've spoken to people who've said that. If the symptoms are really bad, you'd need to take a seriously high dose.
Okay. Any natural remedies to control hot flushes?
Hot flushes. That's menopausal. So there are. What am I thinking? What's the herb I'm thinking of? I know they're going about dong quai, black cohosh. Can't remember half of them on the top of my head, but you have to be careful with black cohosh. Agnus castus is another good one. A healthy diet, because remember, what we don't want to get into is start replacing medication with supplements. Herbs are there to help facilitate and get rid of and regulate, but essentially a good diet is key.
Okay, thank you. Somebody just said natural instant pain relief of cramps during period. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement.
The best way to get rid of cramps is to stop eating sugar. If you have any type of sugar in your diet, get rid of it. That will stop the cramps, because cramps are caused by inflammation. Inflammation is caused by eating foods that really shouldn't be in the body. That will stop it straight away. But the best way to ease cramps, that would be painkillers. But I don't really want anyone to go down that route unless they're really bad. I only recommend painkillers if things are really bad and you can't cope. But the best way to get rid of cramping and any kind of pain is to watch what you eat.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we've got 10 more minutes. Just a couple more questions which has popped up. Okay, there is a black herb stall in Walthamstow Market. I think it's run by a lady called Shirley that deal with women's health. They sell natural herbs. So that's a lady called Shirley. I do have a number. I can maybe try and put it in if anybody wants it. But yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
in
please,
Walthamstow, and they sell natural herbs. What helps with exhaustion and mental fatigue, please?
If that's to do with iron,
Mm-hmm.
because again, I can't sit here and know what it is specifically. I can only generalize.
Mm.
But if it's to do with iron, then you need to get your blood checked to see if you have anemia or you've got low iron stores before you start taking anything.
Mm.
It's always
Excellent.
best to check it, get it checked out before you start taking stuff. Once you know whether to take iron or not. But I can't really say unless I know what's going on with you.
Okay. Last question here so far is, does clay packs over your stomach help shrink fibroids anymore?
I've heard that clay packs, obviously, they draw toxins out the body. But when it comes to actually getting rid of fibroids, some of these beasts are super hard. So it's going to take a while for the body to break them down.
Mm.
So clay packs, castor oil packs, this, that, and the other. I haven't known anyone yet to get rid of their fibroids.
Okay.
What I do is making sure those fibroids don't get any bigger. But if I had a formula that you could just drink and out they come.
Okay, so I guess that answers the next question, which is, have you tried castor oil to get rid of fibroids? So I guess that's the same thing.
No, the only way I know to get rid of fibroids at the moment is surgery. But I'm not saying it won't happen because the body is very resourceful. It will just take a lot of time, and to be really precise with the diet, that means there is absolutely no sugar. It would have to be organic. You would need to cut out all animal products. You would literally be you need sunshine all the time. If you're living in Britain, that's just not going to happen.
Excellent. Somebody's just put down, young people do not go to McDonald's to eat food.
No.
I think
Very wise advice.
maybe that's one of the good things to happen during the last 3 months, is that
but did you see the queue?
I've saw the queue. We saw the queue. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have only 7 more minutes left to go. So Valerie, once again, how can people find you? And are you happy to potentially start a Facebook page with the forum? And
yes,
so we can get
Facebook
information.
page,
yeah.
What I'll do is I'll set up a Facebook page for those emails who I don't have. What I can do is I can send it to Andrew, say, right, the page is ready. You can sort of email everybody. I don't know if you can do that, and then they can join the page that way.
Yeah. Excellent. I will be saving the group chat, and I'll send it over to you so you have everybody.
Okay.
So I'm too busy.
Okay.
I can't do any more of that, man. Too busy. Okay, just a couple more questions. What is the best detox recipe, please?
Oh, I've got them in my 14-day detox, and I'm going to be doing that with you.
Excellent.
Because I think a detox is definitely on the card. So if you're willing to join me, I can set up this. I can set up the Facebook group, and we can all do the detox together. How about that?
Does that include men? I know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's see.
Men can do it as well. Even though it's called the womb detox, you can always call it the prostate detox if you want. But it's going to work the same for men. It's going to work the same for men. It's to cleanse the body.
Okay, and I've just been told by somebody, Facebook group, right? Not page. That way, it will be private. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
a private page. Oh yes.
Yeah. Is that okay? Sound like a plan, Valerie. Excellent. Okay, thank you, everyone. Apart from this lady who's just popped up on the screen, can you please mute yourself, whoever you are? And she's just joined as well, so let me see who she is.
What?
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we have literally gone through all of the questions, and everybody is now saying thank you. So I'm just going to unmute everyone, and if you don't mind just saying thank you to Valerie for taking time out. So hold the line 1 second. So hopefully everyone should be unmuted. Please just thank Valerie for taking the time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Valerie.
Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie.
Thank you very much, Valerie.